Even in the world of physical media players, there is a broad range of bells and whistles, as well as price ranges, of course. You've got your basic DVD player, yes, even those still exist today, now with HDMI ports for easy connection to your smart TV, HD Blu-ray players, gaming consoles, don't forget about those, and 4K UHD players like I have in front of you. But even within the category of the upper echelon 4K UHD players, you have something like the Panasonic UP450 or this LG UDP900, which is sadly discontinued at this point, but those are the entry-level players to take advantage of the resolution of your new 4K television. They also support immersive audio like Dolby Atmos or DTS:X, and HDR support like HDR10 as well as Dolby Vision. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have this bad boy underneath, the Magnetar UDP900 Mark II. So while there are those who may think physical media is dying, there is still a healthy amount of collectors out there who not only want a piece of equipment to just play their DVD and Blu-ray collection, but a premium 4K Blu-ray player that satisfies cinephiles, music lovers, and audiophiles alike, all within one chassis. So let's go over what this beast can do, what the improvements are compared to the UDP900 Mark I, and what exactly you're getting with a premium 4K Blu-ray player. To start, what similarities do the Mark I and Mark II models have? Well, on the video side, they both support 3D Blu-ray, Dolby Vision, HDR10+, while on the audio side, they support Dolby True HD, DTS HD MA, Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and RO3D pass-through. And when it comes to discs, it supports so many different formats. 4K UHD BD, BD standing for Blu-ray disc, standard BD or HD Blu-ray, BDR, BDRE, DVD-R and RW, DVD plus R and RW, DVD video, and even physical media music formats like DVD audio, AVCHD, SACD, CD, and CD-R and RW. But honestly, don't think of this as just a disc player, my friends, but more like an all-in-one media player. In addition to all of those disc formats I just rattled off, USB external hard drives up to 16 terabytes are also supported, with direct access from your computer or NAS via your local network using DLNA, SMB, or NFS protocols supporting a wide range of media formats including MKV, AVI, MP4, WAV, FLAC, APE, DSD, M4A, MP3, OGG, AIFF, DSF, AAC, ALAC, and more, where users can easily play and manage media files in a local and LAN storage device. They both support 4K 60Hz upscaling when watching lower resolution sources with BT2020, BT709, and BT601 color space support. They both have an easy to navigate user interface and menu system, allowing easy access to various settings in local USB devices and networks. As far as outward appearance goes, the Mark I and Mark II are identical, which honestly isn't surprising, but all the upgrades that have happened with the Mark II are on the inside. While the Mark I already has a fantastic 6-layer PCB or printed circuit board, the Mark II has a redesigned 6-layer gold immersion PCB. And we all know gold makes everything better, am I right? And this PCB is now strengthened with JST and Amphenol connectors for lower noise and tighter signal integrity. Internal wiring has also been upgraded with higher grade copper conductors. And with those upgrades, the processing engine as a whole delivers higher performance than the Mark I. And now I know what you're thinking. I just rattled off a bunch of kind of weird words, right? So let me be totally transparent here. When I was writing this script, did I know what JST and Amphenol connectors meant? No. But I did a little research so you don't have to. JST, that's a well-known Japanese manufacturer of high-quality PCB and wire connectors. Amphenol, a major premium connector company used in aerospace, military, industrial, medical, and high-end electronics applications. So instead of using just generic OEM parts like some 4K Blu-ray competitors, the Mark II now has premium internal parts across the board. Now, does this translate to better picture and audio quality? Not really, no. But what it does mean is better power delivery stability, internal digital signal integrity, analog audio section reliability, and most of all, long-term durability. I'll get to this a little bit later, but this thing is built like a tank, so stay tuned. Now, as I mentioned earlier, typically a Blu-ray player or 4K Blu-ray player has only digital outputs like HDMI or optical audio. So any and all digital to analog conversion is done by your TV or your AV receiver, for example. But remember I said Magnetar players are media players also meant for music lovers and audiophiles alike? Well, Magnetar players also have their own DACs built inside if you want that analog to digital conversion happening directly in the unit rather than an external component doing the conversion. And for good reason, since the Mark I has the gold standard ESS9038 Pro DAC for the stereo analog outputs as well as a separate ESS9028 Pro DAC for the 7.1 RCA analog output section. But the Mark II got a DAC upgrade, now having ESS9038 Pro DACs for both the stereo and 7.1 analog outputs. So that's one major difference over a standard Blu-ray or 4K UHD player, the 7.1 analog output section, which is honestly for those die-hard multi-channel music fans listening to DVD audio and SACDs. But ultimately, if you do want to see what a 7.1 analog output section might sound like versus just having picture and sound through an HDMI cable, I would suggest trying to find a somewhat older AV receiver or processor that has a 7.1 analog input section. Ah yes, they used to exist, but they are pretty much phased out at this point, unfortunately. So that's why an older model is necessary. For example, I used to own the Marantz SR7015 AV receiver a few years ago, which does happen to have a 7.1 analog input section. That way you get the best of both worlds, a 7.1 analog input section if you're into that sort of thing, along with your standard HDMI inputs, etc. The same goes with the now discontinued Marantz AV8805A and AV7706 preamp processors. Although you still might be able to find one used for a decent price if you're feeling a little nostalgic or wanted to bust out your collection of DVD audio titles or SACDs and rock out to some surround sound albums or live concerts on physical media. Because I've heard those firsthand, and in those cases, discs still crush streaming. Trust me. Just FYI though, the UDP900 Mark II is Magnetar's new flagship 4K UHD player. But did you know that they have a less expensive model that doesn't have quite the same audiophile features built in? So let's take a real quick look, shall we? So on the bottom, we still have the UDP900 Mark II, and on top is the player I've been personally using for about over a year now, maybe close to 2 years, the UDP800 Mark I. The 800 weighs 17.5 pounds, or about 8 kilograms, whereas the 900 weighs 34 pounds, or about 15.5 kilograms. The 900 is an absolute beast, I tell you. But one thing to note, if you have a DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K Blu-ray player, you'll notice the connections on the back are pretty minimal. Maybe you have an Ethernet port, maybe you have an optical output for older TVs, but nowadays it's mostly just 1 or 2 HDMI outputs to either go out to your TV or your AV receiver. Again, like this LG UBK90 4K UHD player that I own. And it probably looks like I'm clearly running out of real estate on this shot here. But as we take a closer look at the Magnetar players themselves, we can see some obvious differences. Again, the 800 Mark I is clearly not as tall. Its dimensions are 16.9 inches wide, 11.8 inches deep, and 3.5 inches tall. The 900 Mark II is slightly wider at 17.5 inches, slightly deeper at 12.6 inches, and again, clearly taller at 5.2 inches. Now, despite the difference between the 800 and 900 models, the front is pretty much the same. Just a motorized disc tray in the center, some menu navigation buttons, a USB 2.0 port if you have a flash drive with some music on it, but you'll notice only the 900 has a headphone jack if you wanted some solo listening time with your CDs, etc. And truth be told, the rear is also mostly the same with 2 distinct differences. They both have an Ethernet port for a more reliable internet connection, HDMI output and HDMI audio only output for older receivers, USB 3.0 for a hard drive that contains loads of music files, an RS-232C serial console port for things like Control 4 home automation, digital audio outputs like coaxial and optical, as well as stereo analog outputs, both unbalanced RCA and balanced XLR, to connect to an integrated amplifier, or perhaps your AV receiver, again, if the ESS DAC inside the Magnetar is better than the DAC inside your AV receiver. But here on the 900, we have this USB Type B input for a direct digital connection to a PC, and of course, the 7.1 analog output section we mentioned earlier. And just FYI, as of May 20th, 2026, the 800 Mark II and 900 Mark II universal media players have officially secured Roon Ready certification from Roon Labs. For Magnetar customers, Roon Ready certification further expands the networked audio capabilities of the 800 Mark II and 900 Mark II, making it easier to integrate the players into high-performance environments while maintaining reference-grade playback quality. So for all you Roon heads out there, just another reason you might want to look into these products from Magnetar. Alright, so let's be real for a second here. Magnetar knows not everyone needs all these bells and whistles. They realize they are targeting a niche market within a niche market. But those who do want these audiophile features, they are some of the most loyal fans out there, let me tell you. The average consumer would rather lean on convenience, which is why most opt for streaming nowadays. But let's be honest, the promises all the streaming platforms made 10 years ago when it was becoming the norm, like when they said no ads ever, I don't know if you noticed, but those days are already gone. Not to mention all these streaming platforms continue to raise their prices on a regular basis. It was a flawed business model to begin with, and now it's apparent that it is indeed unsustainable to have a model that relies solely on continued growth due to new subscribers. There are only so many people on this earth, so yeah, eventually that growth is going to peter out. And I've seen it firsthand, folks saying they are returning to the good old days of collecting their favorites on physical media instead of hoping that what they want to watch is streaming, only to be disappointed time and time again. So, is the UDP900 Mark II for everyone? Absolutely not. But what it does offer is right up the alley of those die-hard audiophiles who are not only getting sick of streaming platform price hikes, but also have a secret stash of concerts on disc, SACDs, CDs, ginormous music libraries they've curated over the years that they've kept on a NAS drive, cinephiles who want reliable players that make their 4K Blu-ray and DVD collection shine to its fullest with superb picture quality and reference quality immersive audio. Yes, the UDP900 Mark II is a whopping $3,299, which most consumers would never spend on a 4K Blu-ray player. Now, I don't know if you've ever gone down the rabbit hole of premium audiophile grade hi-fi stereo equipment, but if you add up components separately, SACD player, dedicated media player, UHD Blu-ray player, preamp, those can get real expensive real fast when purchased individually. So I know $3,299 causes sticker shock to a lot of you out there, including myself. But owning all those components separately can easily add up to $10,000 at least. Don't believe me? Just go to any audio expo like Axpona in Chicago or Capitol Audio Fest in Washington, D.C., and you'll know exactly what I mean. Hotel room after hotel room of hi-fi setups costing hundreds of thousands, if not more than $1 million. No joke. So suddenly, $3,299 doesn't sound all that bad, does it? Considering all it can do for both movie and music lovers? Honestly, it reminds me of that Ricky Gervais stand-up bit where he's talking about somebody walking up to one of those flyers you see stapled to a post or something that says, "Hey, get guitar lessons." And then you can tear off a little piece of that flyer. But then somebody comes up to that flyer and sees it and tears it off and crumples it up and throws it away and says, "But I don't need guitar lessons." It's like, yeah, no kidding. It's not for you. It's the same thing with the UDP900 Mark II. It is definitely not for your general consumer who wants to just watch their DVDs and Blu-rays and 4K Blu-rays. And honestly, that about wraps it up, folks. This is what you get with a premium media player like the UDP900 Mark II. Again, I know it's not for everyone, but good to know that something like this exists for those who want premium video and audio and network connectivity all in one chassis that's built like a tank that will last you many years to come. So honestly, let us know your thoughts in the comments. But please be kind and cordial and respectful. Again, we know this unit is not for everyone. So if multi-channel music on discs, CD playback, audiophile grade DACs inside, and a Blu-ray player just aren't your thing, duh, we get it. But if you are a little old school and you still have a healthy collection of physical media on various shelves, what do you think about a media player like this? We'd love to know. And with that, to keep up on all things 4K Blu-ray players, home theater, home audio, hi-fi, gadgets, wearables, and other tech, be sure to bookmark ecoustics.com. Until next time.